This woman really did everything she could to save these people on the side of the road, and she was killed. So now it was revealed today in court that that officer who was killed was a rape victim of David Pearce. To talk about this and what happened today in court, obviously it was a stunning revelation. We have an exclusive here on Breaking News Los Angeles. Ronda Dixon, the attorney for David Pearce, she did everything she could to get him a new trial. The judge didn't buy it. Ronda, are you there?
Yes, I am, and I didn't think the judge would buy it because she's pretty upset with Mr. Pierce. But, however, I didn't get to discuss the motion for new trial with you, but it was unduly prejudicial to put all those women together. And if you had actually listened to the testimony, a lot of it didn't make sense and it wasn't impeachable. Now, this issue, like for instance, Jane Doe number one, when PJ Bowles tries to cross-examine her, he's like bumbling and fumbling around, and finally he tries to ask a question, and the DA says, well, you can't do that because the officer's not here. And so he goes, well, where's the officer? And she goes, I don't know. It was 2007. He's probably dead or he's retired. So that's a problem because that's a confrontation clause problem. You can't impeach the witness because the police report said something totally different than what she said on the stand. But now it can't be used. So there was a lot of issues there. The medical examiner, Dr. Pedro Ortiz said that manner of death and cause of death are two different things, and he explained it. Manner of death was, cause of death is what they can opine about. They can make an opinion about that. That means the medical examiner can make an opinion about the cause of death, and it was multiple drug interactions. But the manner of death, being homicide, being whatever, that's something they can't do. And he said there were several different things. It could have been accidental overdose, and he opined that that was most likely what happened. These women, he said in his own words, they were reckless with their bodies. They were taking drugs. They had 6 and 7 drugs in their body. So it's more likely that they overdosed themselves. Even taking all of this together, there's no way that he should be. I mean, it should. Even if he had given them drugs, there was actually no evidence that he actually gave them any drugs. There was evidence that they took drugs. There's no evidence that he gave them. All of it was, I'm woozy. All these different witnesses claim that they drank some alcohol and they got woozy. That has nothing to do with him. So I know he's the person you guys love to hate. But I still say my experience of running a substance abuse clinic for 7.5 years, my experience of having previously been a model, having previously been an entertainment lawyer, that these women overdosed themselves and that they put in all of this prejudicial information from all of these women who were DA rejects. Each and every one of those women had made complaints. Not all of them had made complaints, but most of them had made complaints which were rejected. Catherine Ta had a strategy, and it was to pile on all of these women who had these grievances with him, because he's not a nice person. I'm not saying he's a nice person, but I don't feel that he deserves murder, premeditated murder. I don't feel that all this rape, sodomy, and all this stuff. These girls were girlfriends. They were people that wanted things from him. They had their own axes to grind. So I'm just saying that the witnesses were not deemed credible when they first came forward. They only became credible because of the bolstering that happened when she puts all these people together at once. And despite what the judge said, his DNA was not actually found on or near anyone's vagina. The DNA was found in places consistent with David picking them up and slinging them over his shoulder to carry them to the car, not with a sexual assault. But all of those cases brought together is where she tries to make her
And
case.
what about this? What about the DNA? Was that found on Officer Craven's body? Was his DNA
I
found
don't
on her
know.
body?
No, I don't know what was found on her body. You mean she died?
Well, I'm saying I think everybody wants to know how did they link Pierce to raping this deceased officer?
I don't
That's what I'm.
know that. I wasn't, so to be honest honest with you, I wasn't there today because I'm preparing for this case with Megan Thee Stallion in Miami.
Okay.
So I wasn't there. Tamara Benz was there.
Okay.
As far as this bombshell about Officer Cravens, I think that's a punch under the table, really. That's a low blow because it wasn't brought to light during the trial. So how she didn't bring it to light now? And she's 25 years old. I find it hard to believe that this 25-year-old police officer was raped by him. So no, I don't think so.
But
I think that was just something sensational. Like Catherine likes to just bring things up. Special victim unit. This is what I like to say, and she's probably gonna get really mad at me, but this is funny. So the first time I ever encountered a DA that was in the special victim unit, she was wearing like red bottoms, a pencil skirt, and a blouse, like a silk blouse with no jacket. So I said, do they think they're supposed to be sexy because they work in the special victims unit? I don't know. So every time I walk down the halls of the criminal courts building and I see a woman that's dressed like that, I said, oh, are you a SVU DA? And they go, yeah, how'd you know? I said, just a lucky guess. Basically, it's the outfit.
All right. So, Rhonda, let me ask you though. So they bring in this allegation, and they say one of the Jane Does, because that's what she was listed as, Officer Craven, in the criminal complaint in court. There, she was listed, I believe, as Jane Doe number 5 or something like that. When the DA receives something like this, a complaint like this. Like when Officer Craven, when it went to the district attorney and said, David Pearce raped me, they asked, well, did you take a rape test? Did you get a rape kit? How did they put this together? What would you think in your mind?
I don't know, to be honest with you. That I don't know, because they didn't have a rape kit. So most of these women didn't have rape kits. Most of these women just had allegations that were technically hearsay and not really able to be verified. But, I mean, especially in the case of the woman who did a totally different police report, and she was not able to be impeached. So Catherine chose her victims well. And then the whole thing about using an indictment as opposed to using a preliminary hearing where a person can actually, by the time the indictment, it's done in secret. So David didn't even know that they had done an indictment on him, and he didn't even know it's 600 pages. He didn't know the basis of it. And because they say Jane Doe, it's very difficult to defend yourself. Like right now, I'm part of this 30 probation officer case at Los Padrinos, and all of us lawyers are saying, hey, we have to be able to know who these people are, because we can't defend our clients. It's a confrontation clause issue. And as far as I know, they never really told David who the Jane Does were. They named them Jane Doe.
Right.
And at some point, somebody had to know who they were, because it's a confrontation clause issue. You know, anybody can make a complaint against you. How can you figure out how to counter it? How can you defend yourself against it if you don't know? If you have to try to guess, well, let me think. 17 years ago, who did I know, and who fits this description? You know. I mean, that's kind
pretty
of
scary.
ridiculous.
No, it's pretty scary stuff. Now you keep mentioning Catherine. I'm assuming this is the
DA.
And what is her last name?
Mariano.
Catherine Mariota. All right. So she bundled all these cases. She helped do this to your client, and people are going to jump all over me for saying that. You know, they say, well, he did this to himself. I'm just going here by what you're saying, and
It's a strategy.
It's a strategy.
It's
Okay.
a strategy to use. I mean, it's think of it as a game of chess. You know. Technically, that's what it is. I mean, we both have strategies. I wasn't there in the beginning. Had I been there in the beginning, it would have been a totally different strategy. Because I knew from the fact of my own personal experience of running a substance abuse clinic for 7 years, when you take that many drugs like that, it's not an if, it's a when you're going to overdose yourself. Look at what happened to Matthew Perry. And what kind of message are we sending when somebody he didn't dump their bodies. He went to the hospital. There's video. He sat there. He didn't run away. So
all right. So we listened to everything.
Help people
Go ahead.
that have, that are overdosed. That's a bad message to send out. It's not a good message to get to the public. Now people are going to really think twice, and that's probably why he hesitated to take these girls to the hospital. But finally, he said, "Yes, I got to take them," because he hesitated probably because he felt like this exact thing would happen to him. And as far as all these other cases, those cases had already been handled. Catherine had the ability, because of the statute of limitations being longer when you charge rape, when you charge those kind of sexual assault charges, she had the ability to go back and take these women's complaints and make them into, an actual charge. Now, I argued that with the judge argued back with me, but what I'm saying is they were not charged until after this case came to light, and some of these people called, and when they called in and when they checked his record, they would look for previous unfiled reports. These were just reports, and they were usually investigated and dropped, all these Jane Does, including whoever Jane Doe number 5 was.
Which
So,
apparently was Officer Craven from the La Mesa Police Department. Eric Brenner here,
well,
Breaking
we
News,
never
Los
knew
Angeles.
that. This first thing I heard of it.
We're here with Ronda Dixon, the famed criminal defense attorney, one of the best in LA, I might add. And she is leading the effort now to free her client, David Pearce, who you're telling me, Rhonda, has been wrongly convicted. He's not a rapist in your mind. He's not been proven a rapist, and he's not a murderer, because of course your background in substance abuse and working in the entertainment industry, where I work as well, and we do know that models, as you said in one of our previous discussions, take drugs. It's a very common event in this industry, and unfortunately, it is part of the scene. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I don't want to say all models take drugs, but I do want to say that it's something that's prevalent in the entertainment industry.
All right, so you didn't have.
I think that they indicated that they were. I mean, the evidence shows that they had multiple drugs in their system. The evidence shows that there was a pin that was dropped at about 5-something a.m. in the morning, where one of the girls says, "Hey, I found some good cocaine for us. I'm dropping a pin, so you can come. I have enough for you.
Right.
Can you come and meet me here?" And so it wasn't like they were not taking drugs. Assuming arguendo, if the DA's case is correct, and he gave them some drugs, they never actually established that he gave them drugs. So they kept saying that they tasted some alcohol and it tasted bad. Well, after snorting ketamine, I don't know what happens to your olfactory nerves.
Can't be great. Can't be great.
Smoking. Huh?
It can't be you can't have a good effect. We know any of these drugs. These are very dangerous drugs to mess with, and if people didn't get the memo by now, it's very upsetting. So you're telling me, Rhonda, and you're telling our audience very clearly, your client David Pearce was just sentenced to life imprisonment today. He really was, by a judge in downtown LA, without any evidence no physical evidence linking him to any of these rapes. No.
No.
Go ahead.
No, that's not the case.
Okay, go ahead.
They were DA rejects.
Okay.
So they were rejected previously. They had been investigated and rejected.
Okay.
And another thing is, when you're going back 2007, usually there's what we call it a SARNA motion. When you haven't brought a case against somebody and it's 2007, everything is cold. I mean, look at you can't get witnesses. You can't figure out your alibi. You can't test things. Like, all these women kept saying they drank alcohol and they felt funny, but how can we test the alcohol now? We don't know that they actually had anything given to them.
Okay, so some of his DA may have been on their cups or something like that. You're saying
No,
nothing.
No. There was no DA. None of those previous ones had anything to do with DA.
DNA. I'm sorry, DNA is what I meant. Yes.
DNA was was supposedly found on Christy, and there was unknown DNA on the other girl, but that other Hilda. But Hilda, he was excluded from the DNA. Some DNA was found on her, but it wasn't his. And this is where the judge got it confused. And so the first girl, Christy, she had some DNA, but the DNA was in places that he touched her to pick her up to put her over his shoulder. There was no DNA in her vagina, and that's what me and the judge argued about during the hearing. And she says, well, there was DNA. And no, that actually, look at the record, that's not true. But the judge and they kind of had their own opinions already. They were already biased, and he can be a little abrasive. He pissed the judge off earlier on, and that was the thing. She kept telling me, "Well, I've listened to his jail calls," and she formed the opinion in listening to his jail calls that she wasn't too happy with him. And then in one of the Marsden motions, which we unsealed we unsealed the record in order to use those Marsden motions. In one of them, he says his attorney was not competent because he didn't call all the witnesses because he called and checked. And so she said, "Oh, you've been communicating with the witnesses?" And that's when she went off.
Very upsetting.
So,
Yeah, very, very upsetting
exactly.
this happened.
So,
All right, Eric Brenner here, Breaking News, Los Angeles. We're here with this exclusive interview with Ronda Dixon, famed criminal defense attorney here in Los Angeles, David Pearce's lead attorney, now a convicted murderer, sentenced today for 100 to 146 years in state prison by a judge in downtown Los Angeles. Ronda, what's next now for Mr. Pearce? Are you going to file an appeal? Is this going to be an immediate appeal?
yeah, it's the appeal was filed today. Tamara Mins filed the appeal on our behalf, and I made sure that she knew to do that, so she did that. So there will be an appeal. I'm not sure if I'll be the one doing the appeal, but there will be an appeal because we already have the grounds. There was also there's a lot of ineffective assistance of counsel, and when I brought that up to the judge, she felt like PJ Bowles was kind of folksy with the audience, kind of like Matlock, And I said, "Folksy, you mean stuttering and saying?" And many times he's saying he's tired, he's got a headache, and he's also saying stuff like, the judge is explaining to him, "You can't ask the question that way." He goes, "Well, then how do I ask it?"
Right.
And then the judge has to tell him how to ask the question.
Very bad.
So,
Very upsetting.
yeah.
Where does this go? The second court of appeal. Where does this go? What court does it?
Second appellate district. The
Second
second
appellate.
appellate district
Okay.
was where it will go. So we've put in a notice within 60 days of the sentencing. You have to put in your notice of appeal, and we've already done that today. So there will be an appeal, and I'm hoping that justice will be done, and that also a new message would be sent out. I know he's not the best person in the world as far as a nice guy or something, but I have to separate that and look at the fact is, I don't like people being wrongfully convicted.
That's what happened here. According to you, that's what happened here, Rhonda. And no one's saying this. And I find it very hard to believe that this judge didn't take a second look at this tape and say, "Ronda Dixon, you're right. They didn't just dump the bodies." And why do you think that happened, Ron? I just have to ask that. Why did the judge do this? Why wouldn't she at least look at the tapes? You're saying
The weight of the evidence, the weight of all of these other cumulative women coming forth was exactly the strategy that was used, and that's what works to bury people.
And you have to admit that
they said all that before they got to the meat of it was Hilda and Christy.
right?
Okay.
Of course.
They put all 7 prior to that. They piled all of this stuff to make the jury not like him. Because as you can see, he had a co-defendant. There should have been a third. Ansbach should have been the third co-defendant, actually.
Right, and everyone needs to be reminded who Michael Osbach was. He was in this apartment in Beverly Hills where the ladies overdosed, and he testified against your client David Pearce, saying that David Pearce had said, "Dead girls don't talk." He said that to the court, and that helped bury him as well. Would you agree?
It did. It was very damning, but it was also something that I don't know that he would say. You know what I mean? It sounded like, dead girls tell no tales, like he was watching the Pirates of the Caribbean, But
go ahead.
It's really kind of stupid because if he wanted to rape them, there's no evidence let's just assume that everything they said is true. If he did give them drugs to have sex with them, it wouldn't be to kill them. So the intent to kill wouldn't be there. So even by their own evidence, it's not the case. But they're trying to show that one way or the other, because the sexual assaults are good for 15 to life, and so that's what they put on him on all of those sexual assaults, 15 to life. That's how the time aggregated. So 50 years, they put consecutive for the murders. So that was 100, and then they put actually, no, I'm sorry. It was one, they probably did that concurrent, but they added on all of the sexual assaults at 15 to life.
How do you feel the chances are? Do you feel better bringing I mean, it's a different judge. It's going to be a different group of judges, actually, right? The Court of Appeals. It's a panel of judges. How do you feel about this right now, moving forward?
They don't like to overturn things. They don't, because they don't like to upset the integrity of the process and let people know that the process may have some flaws in it. But it does have flaws. And when you really look at the testimony of these women, you find that they're pretty much people that they have some axe to grind with him, because he wasn't the nicest guy as a boyfriend, or as he wasn't the nicest guy on the level.
So,
But
so
did he
the
rape them? No, most of those girls were ex-girlfriends, or people that, like one lady from out of the country wanted him to sponsor her to stay in the country, and so they wanted things. And when they didn't get them, they were a little upset. But for the most part, they went off on their own way. Some of them did make complaints, but the complaints were considered not credible, and so they were not taken up by the DA. And then the other ones that just came in, once they heard about Hilden Christie and saw his face flash on the screen, they're like, "Oh, I know him." And and most of these women were wannabe actresses, so they were also publicity hounds too. So, you know.
it's a very upsetting case all around. All right, so that's going to happen. Where do you think your client's going to end up? Do you have any idea where they're going to send him?
Oh, well, first they're going to send him to Wasco, or one of the, Delano, Wasco, one of the inmate reception centers, and then they'll send him. See, people actually do a lot of, they move him around into the state prison, but he'll be in a maximum security because he's accused of murder, so he'll go to one of the higher maximum security
Do you
places.
think he'll be on a protective yard?
He might request to be on a protected yard
Okay.
based on the charges.
And the publicity, the absolute horrendous publicity here. So let me have one last question here, Rhonda. I know it's getting late here, and you've given us a lot of time. Brant Osborne. Now, this was his co-defendant. They came. He didn't have these rape allegations, these rape charges piled on against him. The jury came back with a mistrial. It was a hung jury on Brant Osborne. The word from the DA today, my opinion on this is that Hochman wasn't going to do anything with Osborne.
Yeah.
He got the big fish. He's going to let this go. But the word from the DA today was indicating otherwise. Do you think Brant Osborne could be in trouble here?
Well, they can always retry him. With a mistrial, they can retry him. And they can also, they're now educated about what they need to do to make him, they poll the jury. They're educated about what they can say and do. What would be more effective to overcome whatever hurdles they had with Brant. But I believe the hurdles they had were just simply, not hurdles, but the advantage that he had was he didn't have those 7 Jane Does.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Even if one of them had been against him, he would have not had a hung jury. If there was any way they could have made an allegation, there was concerted effort upon their part. Because the way she's saying it, basically, she puts them both into this, but she also claims almost like, if his motive was to have sex, was he trying to have sex with both of them, one of them, and then why did he so-called drug his friend Michael Ansbach? Why would he do that?
You're bringing up some excellent points, and it's one of the reasons we fight to have you here on this show, Breaking News Los Angeles. Ronda Dixon, thank you. I know this was not a great day for you in court, but we think you do have some valid points that you've made here. You've made them exclusively on Breaking News Los Angeles. Ronda Dixon, thanks for joining us. We'll speak to you again.
Thank you for having me. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Ronda. All right, there you have it. One of the best attorneys in Los Angeles, Ronda Dixon. You don't believe me? Just look her up. Ronda Dixon, David Pearce's attorney. She basically had a lot to say here, saying her client's innocent. That this man, David Pearce, one of the most hated men in Los Angeles, is actually wrongfully convicted. Eric Brenner here, Breaking News, Los Angeles. That was pretty tough stuff from Ronda Dixon. She is sticking by this man, and you won't hear her name mentioned by any other media outlet. They're not interested. They're interested in basically a media pile-on, convicting someone through the. They already convicted him through the media, and the judge and the jury apparently believed everything that the district attorney put forth. So we have that. We brought you this exclusively on Breaking News Los Angeles, late night here. We appreciate you tuning in, and stay tuned. We will follow this story right through the appellate process, and we will see what happens here. But thank you for joining us. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more coverage on this breaking news story and other breaking news stories here in Los Angeles. I'm Eric Brenner for Breaking News Los Angeles. We'll see you next time.